Good morning, everybody. As our wonderful moderator stated, my name is Kristal Metro. I'm going to get us started talking about our project, current practices for recruiting and retaining qualified workers at state transportation agencies. Julia and I are the research assistants under our PI, Dr. Christopher Harper, and co-PI, Dr. Susan Halter. So just a quick overview. We're going to talk about the problem statement. Why did we want to do this? Talk about the goal of our research, go over the project steps, our hiring specialist interviews, and talk about our findings and future steps. So the main problem statement, let's take a look here. Thought we'd show you this to get us all started. As you can see, we have some retention problems, especially in the public sector. So a strong transportation system is essential for the growth and stability of our society, and our state DOTs are facing a lot of challenges in recruiting and retaining our workforce. Our workforce is currently in a time of transition. In the past 10 years, we've been transitioning from the baby boomer generation, being the largest generation in the US workforce, to the millennial generation, being the largest generation in our force. As of 2015, the millennial generation is the most represented generation in our current US workforce. Now that does leave us with some issues, especially as our data also indicates that more than 50% of our state agency workers are going to be eligible to retire in the next 10 years. That's specifically in the transportation agency itself versus the overall workforce. So let's talk a little bit about what makes millennials different from the previous generations, specifically the baby boomer generation. The millennials have a great deal of emphasis on their work-life balance. They are highly educated, but they expect some flexibility in their schedule, and they value their leisure time. They also see a lot of benefit to challenges in their work. And due to that, they are more willing to move. So they see a lot of job mobility, especially in their early career, which makes it harder to keep employees. Show you a little bit about our anticipated job growth. Now to the far left here, we're looking at our anticipated job growth over the next 10 years from 2016 to 2026 of the US civilian labor force overall. Now the next three following are some of our highest turnover positions in DOTs. We're talking about the maintenance workers, the civil engineering technicians, and the civil engineers. As you can see, our anticipated job growth for each of those positions is higher than the average anticipated job growth for our civilian labor force. So that leaves us with quite a few challenges. To give you an idea here, since we are looking at a younger generation, we're seeing a lack of some skills. They need to acquire these skills over time, but we are going from employees that had over 20 years of experience to less than 10. So that leaves us with some lack leadership issues. The newer employees don't have the background in leading and providing these skills, as well as a lack of engagement with the millennial generation who are, honestly, they see the public sector, especially the DOTs, as a little boring. Working at the DOT, they're not going to get to try the newest, most exciting design changes. DOTs tend to want it to be standard. They have standard specifications for a reason. So they want it to be the same old, same old. So they're seeing a lot of issues with getting people to come in, use the technological innovation. And then there's always the biggie, which is that, frankly, the private sector pays a lot more. So they have to compete with that. So we're looking to increase the employee longevity at these DOTs and see if we can increase employee loyalty. Okay, let's talk about our study goal. The study goal for this specific project is to investigate the practices for recruiting and retaining the employees at state DOTs, specifically in the US DOT District 6. This is US DOT District 6. It includes Louisiana. We've got Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas, and Arkansas. Did I leave anybody out? Okay, I think we got it. So let's go over the project steps. As you can see here, we are currently right here. So this is kind of more of a project update than a project conclusion. We did a comprehensive literature review so that we could come up with the current state of the practice. We used the current state of the practice, which we went through a number of DOT publications to come up with our institutional barriers. Now, with that included some interviews with the HR departments of these specific DOTs, which we used the results from those interviews to come up with methods to quantify the employee needs of these DOTs. Now, by doing that, we came up with an intensive survey that Julie is going to cover in much greater detail later on, as well as the specific institutional barriers we've ID'd. So we're going to use that to make some recommendations and develop a comprehensive decision support tool that can be used hopefully by all DOTs, but will be specifically aimed at District 6. And do some workforce development, including outreach and education. So, Julia, did you want to come up and talk about the hiring specialist interviews? Hand it over to my cohort here. Thank you.
Okay, so for the interviews, we mainly concentrated in talking with HR representatives from each state DOT. We developed the interview based on the current the literature review, and we did some content analysis based on the literature and the findings we found in the documents from each state DOT. So we developed an interview that is based in 3 areas, which is recruitment, retention, and promotion. For the recruitment area, we wanted to see what strategies and incentives they were using to advertise their job positions, and what other strategies they were using to attract them, like what kind of special benefits and compensation packages they offer, not also to the in a way to attract a younger generation as well. We also noticed, try to ask them what positions were hard, difficult to fill, and what were easy to fill. What kind of training opportunities they offered, as well if they had any policies for recruiting minorities and for women as well. For the retention as well, we also tried to investigate what kind of incentives they were using to retain current employees, to find why these employees were leaving, and also why, mainly because it was a competition between the public and the private sector. And for the promotion part, we wanted to find out what training and process and other incentives they were using. From the interviews, from Louisiana, we interviewed one HR representative. From Texas, we interviewed 3 of them. And from New Mexico, we interviewed 2 people. And from Oklahoma, it was only 1 person. And from Arkansas, it was 2 HR representatives. So the findings. In the recruitment strategies, we found out that most of the states' DOTs currently use aggressive campaigns to recruit qualified employees. They advertise job openings through internally and externally through their own talent acquisition website. They also advertise via transportation-specific publications. As well, they use social networking websites that includes Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and other sources to attract a younger generation, specifically for millennials. In the case of, if you notice, from the 5 states, only Louisiana does not currently use social media as the other states. The majority of the states actively recruit at colleges and universities and job fairs. And they also provide internships and programs for students who are interested in a DOT career. The training strategies. From here, most of the 5 states DOTs, they require introductory training at the time of the hire. They also do incremental training as for the employees to succeed in their positions. DOTs also provides in-house training and certification training, except for the state of Louisiana. A collective challenge voice was that by each state DOT is that employees tend to use the agency resources to obtain the required certification or licensing, and then leave for another job with another firm or agency. So for example, an entry-level maintenance personnel that is hired to operate heavy equipment, they are provided with the training opportunities and the resources to obtain their commercial driver's license. But once they obtain the commercial driver license, they tend to leave for another agency or another company, a commercial operating company, such as a hauling company that can afford a higher hourly pay. Also, most of them, as I told you before, most of them provide certification training, except for the state of Louisiana. Online training, it's currently being explored in the state of Arkansas. So right now they do not know how if it's gonna be successful or not, or if it's gonna be effective. For the development strategies, the 5 states DOTs implement career development programs. They provide that which help professionals to grow. They offer as well education reimbursement to also attract potential applicants and retain current employees. Only the state of Arkansas does not offer tuition and reimbursement. However, the state uses alternative approaches such as an in-house and cross-training and provide certification training to obtain the required licensing. From 2 out of 5 states, DOTs implement succession planning, which is the state of Louisiana and Texas. They do this by mentoring programs and job rotations. There's an interesting thing that the Louisiana and Oklahoma use performance-based evaluations as a way to perform. Yeah, it's a monetary incentive to retain employees. So we noticed that most of the high turnover positions among the state DOTs were engineers, technicians, and maintenance. For the most part, it's because lower wages tend to be associated with this high turnover positions. Salaries paid in the public sector are significantly lower than those in the private sector. So the benefits are reduced, are offset by higher salaries offered in the private sector. So that in this sense, the state DOTs engage in a variety of practices to attract and hire qualified employees into their organization by providing excellent benefit packages that includes health and life insurance, flexible work schedules, retirement programs, career and training and development opportunities, compensation packages, and a level of job stability and security that is not offered in the private sector. It's also, I want to mention that in the case for Arkansas, it's implemented a special performance-based system in which they evaluate employees' performance relative to the core values as well as the job specific competencies. So the bonus and raises are based on annual performance, and they are assigned a score. So the better the score, the more the money they're gonna get. In the case of Louisiana, they establish some targets. If the employee exceeds these targets, they are rewarded not only monetarily, but also as a recognition as well. They also reward employees based on their length and secure service through their honorary and monetary awards. Sorry, I forgot to mention Oklahoma. In the case of Oklahoma as well, they offer a sign-on bonus to employees in return for assigning a one-year employment commitment. They also provide eligibility for paid overtime after the first 3 years of service. For example, employees progress through each engineer intern level, they can receive up approximately to 7.5% of salary increase. So for future steps, as my friend told you before, we're currently right now in determining the methods and quantifying the employee needs. We're currently analyzing the current employee surveys to try to match to see if it correlates with the HR interviews, and to see if it's similar, if the HR are really providing these opportunities to the employees, to see what and to also notice what makes the employees leave as well. So then we're gonna make some recommendations and develop a decision support tool and a workforce development, and afterwards we're gonna implement an outreach and education. Thank you.